Jackson Reed stood quietly at the edge of the metal platform. Round him, the sound of cheering filled the massive stadium. Lights blinked. Drones flew above. Giant alien faces appeared on floating screens. The galactic arena of stars was alive, and today it would see something it had never seen before. Human Warrior. He was Earth's first and only entry in the Varelian tournament. A galaxy-wide competition where the strongest fighters from different planets came to prove their strength. Everyone said it was impossible for a human to win. Humans were weak, they said. Too soft, too emotional. But Jackson was not here to win hearts. He was here to prove them wrong. Introducing the human. Jackson Reed of Earth, boomed the voice from the sky. Some in the crowd laughed. Others whispered in strange alien languages. A few even booed. Jackson didn't care. He stepped forward, wearing light armor made from Earth's strongest materials, nothing fancy, but enough to survive a fight. The gates across from him opened. A large insectoid alien stepped out. Its arms were thick, claws sharp, and armor, made of natural shell, screeched and raised 4 fists into the air. This was Jackson's first match. No one thought he would survive. The buzzer sounded. The fight began. The alien charged fast. Jackson ducked under its arms and rolled to the side. He didn't try to punch. He didn't try to kick. Instead, he threw a small device, an EMP shock grenade, near the alien's feet. The device exploded. With blue light, the alien screamed. Its armor sparked. Jackson jumped forward and slammed his shock baton onto the creature's neck. With a flash, the beast dropped to the ground. The arena went silent for a second. Then a loud cheer rose from the human section of the crowd. Small but proud, he had one high above. In a special royal box, Princess Thelyria of Varelia watched. With narrowed eyes, she sat straight, wearing armor of gold and violet, her 4-fingered hands folded. Her long silver hair was tied behind her sharp horns, and her purple eyes glowed with energy. Strange, she whispered. Her advisor, a tall alien with many eyes, leaned toward her. He cheated, no doubt, using tricks, not strength. Thelyria shook her head. He didn't cheat. He adapted. The princess was the face of the tournament. Every year, she honored the winner. But this year, something inside her stirred. This human. He was different. Back in the fighter's room, Jackson leaned against the wall, breathing hard. He wiped sweat from his forehead and smiled. Round 1 down, he said to himself. 4 more to go. A screen lit up in front of him. It showed his next opponent, a 4-armed warrior from the desert planet Chirul, twice his size, trained in blades and brute strength. Of course, he muttered. They keep sending giants. The next match came quickly. The crowd was louder now. They wanted to see how far this human could go. Some still laughed. Others were now curious. Jackson entered the arena again. The Creole fighter was already waiting. He carried 2 swords and wore thick bronze armor. The buzzer rang. The Creole came at him like a storm. Jackson ran, dodged, and used the walls of the arena to jump and flip. He couldn't match the alien's strength, but he didn't have to. He pulled out a flash capsule and threw it at the alien's feet. Bright light exploded. The alien roared, swinging wildly. Jackson used the moment to leap behind and press a high-voltage dart to its back. The beast screamed, dropped its weapons, and collapsed. The crowd gasped, then they cheered. Jackson raised his hand. Not in victory, but in peace. Far above, Princess Thelyria stood up. That makes 2, she said. Her advisor looked nervous. He's making fools of us. This cannot be allowed. Thelyria didn't answer. She simply stared down at the human. Her heart beat faster, though she didn't know why. In the city outside the arena, aliens from many worlds gathered in bars, in plazas, in floating viewing rooms to talk about the human. For the first time, Earth was being noticed. Some were impressed. Others were angry. A few started to believe maybe humans weren't weak after all. Before his 3rd match, Jackson sat alone in his room. A message appeared on his screen. It was from the princess herself. Human, if you reach the finals, you will fight me. The warrior of Varelia. Do you accept this honor? Jackson stared at the message. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a trap, he typed. Only one word, yes. His third match was harder than the last. A beast from the ice moons of Altara, with skin so thick that Jackson's weapons barely hurt it. The creature almost crushed him. Ow. But Jackson saw its weak spot behind the knee and used a drill device to pierce its joint. It collapsed with a roar. Unable to move. Victory again. Now the whole galaxy was watching. Commentators called him the Earth Phantom. Kids wore masks like him. Memes of his fight spread across every planet, and Thaleria watched every second in her royal chamber. She stared at a map showing all champions. Only 3 fighters remained to know Jackson, a reptilian champion named Korak, and herself. She closed. The map. This human is clever, she said. But can he fight with honor? Her voice was firm, but her mind was not. Why did she keep thinking about him? Why did his smile stay in her head? Back in the training chamber, Jackson was tired, bruised, but still strong. Next is Korak, he whispered. Then, her. He looked at a picture of Thaleria on the wall, one taken from the arena. She looked proud, cold, untouchable. Let's see if I can change that, he said. But what Jackson didn't know was that Thaleria was preparing something else. Not just a fight, not just a test, but a challenge that would shake the entire galaxy. The crowd in the galactic arena was louder than ever. Sparks of light floated in the air. Giant holograms showed replays of past battles. Jackson Reed's face was everywhere. No and signs on shirts, even on tattoos. The human from Earth had won 3 matches in a row. No tricks, no cheating. Just clever moves, fast thinking, and the will to win. But now, everything was about to change. Jackson stood in the preparation chamber, quietly watching a screen. It showed his next opponent, Korak the Destroyer, lizard-like warrior from the volcano world of Zarnix. His arms were like stone pillars. His armor was heavy and black. He'd never lost a match in 3 years. Of course, Jackson muttered. Biggest guy in the galaxy? And I get to fight him. He smiled anyway. He had faced worse. He remembered the freezing cave on Mars, the sandstorms of Titan, the years of VR combat training on Earth. Pain was normal. Fear was part of the game. The door opened. A robotic voice spoke. Gladiator Jackson read, "Please report to the arena." As Jackson walked into the blinding light of the stadium, the crowd went wild. His name echoed in 1,000 alien languages. He looked around and saw cameras, drones, and floating screens zoom in on his every move. But his eyes locked onto one place, the royal box. There she was, Princess Thaleria. She stood tall, dressed in shining silver armor, her violet eyes focused only on him. For a moment, time slowed. The two locked eyes. Then she did something no one expected. She stepped forward. The royal trumpet sounded. The crowd fell silent. Even Korak stopped sharpening his claws. The arena light shifted. A beam of golden light followed Thaleria as she walked to the edge of her balcony. Her voice, strong and sharp, echoed through the galaxy. People of the Dominion, warriors of the arena, and Jackson Reed of Earth. Everyone watched in shock. This human has done the impossible. He is defeated 3 of our champions. He has shown strength, speed, and mind. Gasps filled the air. Was she praising a human? She continued. And so, in front of all galaxies, I, Princess Thaleria of House Varelia, make a royal declaration. Jackson blinked. Thaleria raised one hand and shouted, "Human. If you win this battle, ... you win me." The arena exploded in noise. Cameras spun in every direction. Commentators screamed. Aliens stood from their seats. Jackson's mouth dropped open. Did she really say that? The princess, now glowing under the spotlight, stood proudly. Her face was calm, but her heart was racing. This was not a joke. According to Varelian law, any royal vow made in the arena must be honored. Back in the fighter's chamber, even, Korak looked confused. "What madness is this?" he growled. Jackson shook his head, trying to think. Was this a trap? A distraction? Or something else? He looked up at the princess again. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't mocking him. She meant it. A voice rang across the arena. "Let the battle ... begin." Korak charged like a raging bull. The ground shook under his feet. Jackson snapped back into focus. No time for love. No time for thinking. Fight first, ask questions later. He rolled to the side as Korak smashed his fist into the ground. A cloud of dust shot up.
Jackson, Tosta.
Smoke bomb, and vanished into the haze. From the shadows he attacked. A stunned dart hit Korak's shoulder. The giant roared and swung blindly. Jackson jumped on his back and tried to lock his grappling device to the lizard's armor, but Korak grabbed him midair and slammed him to the ground. "Now you die, little man," he hissed. Jackson coughed, his ribs screaming in pain. But he smiled anyway. Not today. He pulled a flash needle from his belt and stabbed it into Korak's neck. Electric fire sparked through the alien's veins. Korak screamed, then dropped to one knee. Jackson kicked him in the jaw with his steel boot. Korak fell. The arena went silent, then erupted. Jackson stood slowly, his breath heavy. His legs shook, but he raised one arm in victory. The cameras turned to Thaleria. She said nothing, but a tiny smile appeared on her lips. She turned and left the balcony. After the battle, in the private fighter's room, Jackson was treated by alien medics. He winced as they cleaned a deep cut on his arm. A buzzing sound came from his communication. Screen, incoming royal message. He sat up straight. The screen lit up with a live feed of Princess Thaleria. She was no longer in armor, but in a royal robe. Her face was calm, her eyes sharp. "Jackson read," she said. "Princess," he answered, still unsure what was going on. "You won. That means my vow must be honored." "To win you," Jackson replied carefully. "I fought to prove humans aren't weak, and yet you did win me," she said softly. Jackson stared at her face. "Why? Why would you say that? You don't even know me." Thaleria looked away for a second. "Because... I wanted to test something greater than strength. Wanted to see if a human could carry honor, and today you showed that. Not offering myself as a prize. I'm offering myself as a partner." Jackson was silent. Then slowly he smiled. "Is that your way of proposing?" She rolled her eyes. "Don't be foolish. I'm not proposing." He laughed, even with a cracked rib. "I don't know what happens next," he said honestly, "but I'm willing to find out." Outside, the entire galaxy was in chaos. News screens across thousands of worlds showed headlines like, "Human defeats Korak wins royal promise." "Earthling to marry Varelian princess." "Is humanity ready to join the elite?" Some laughed, some protested. But others cheered on Earth. People danced in the streets. The internet was flooded with memes of Jackson and Thaleria. A video clip of her saying, "You win me," went viral in seconds. In the royal palace that night, Thaleria sat alone by her window, looking up at the stars. Her mind was full of questions. She didn't know if this human truly wanted her, or if he would walk away after this. But part of her hoped he wouldn't. And in his small resting pod, Jackson stared at the ceiling. He was no longer just a fighter. He was no longer just a human. He had changed everything. But the hardest battle was still ahead, because next, he had to face the princess herself. Jackson Reed stood in the training hall alone. His arms were covered in bruises, his ribs ached. But he wasn't thinking about pain. He was thinking about her, Princess Thaleria. Her words still echoed in his head. "If you win this battle, you win me." She had said it in front of the entire galaxy. But Jackson wasn't sure if it was a game, a test, or something more. Now, he had to fight her. In the final match, human versus royal, flesh versus fire. The last trial, the door opened. Familiar voice entered the room. "You should be resting. not thinking. It was Voro, one of the alien medics who had been helping Jackson since round 1. He had 3 eyes and a wide grin. Jackson smiled weakly. Round is against the most dangerous woman in the galaxy. Voro chuckled. She's not just dangerous. She's trained in 10 styles of combat. Her armor is made from star metal. She never shows mercy. Comforting, Jackson said with a sigh. Voro placed a small healing pad on Jackson's shoulder. You have something she doesn't. Jackson raised an eyebrow. What? It's terrible odds. Voro shook his head. Heart. While Jackson prepared alone, high above in the royal tower, Princess Thelyria trained too. Her sword cut through the air like lightning. Her footwork was sharp, her breathing steady, but her mind was not. She had made the vow. She had seen his bravery. But something inside her felt confused. He was not like others. He didn't crave power. He didn't beg. He didn't worship her. He simply stood his ground. And that made her curious, angry, nervous, maybe even impressed. The day of the final match arrived. The galactic arena had never been this full. Ships from every corner of the stars floated above the stadium. Giant screens floated in space. Billions watched across planets, moons, and stations. This was more than a fight. This was history. The arena changed for the final round. Instead of a flat field, the stage now had fire pits, rising walls, spinning blades, and floating platforms. A true test of strength, skill, and speed. Jackson stood at the entrance. Dressed in upgraded armor gifted by a friendly alien engineer, it wasn't heavy, but it was smart, filled with sensors, boosters, shock resistance. He took a deep breath. Let's end this. The trumpet blasted. A glowing gate opened from the other side. Princess Thelyria walked in. She wore her royal battle armor shining silver with violet light across her arms and shoulders. Her sword glowed with ancient energy. Her crown was gone. She was here not as a ruler, but as a warrior. The crowd went silent. 2 warriors faced each other. No words, just eyes. The buzzer sounded, and the fight began. Thelyria moved first fast, like a beam of light. Her sword slashed through the air toward Jackson's chest. He dodged. Just barely, her next attack came from above. Jackson rolled under a spinning blade, then jumped onto a floating platform. He fired a shock dart. She blocked it with her sword. They fought across walls, over pits of fire, between moving barriers. Thelyria attacked with speed and precision. Jackson responded with tricks,
Axe.
flips, and clever moves. At one point, she trapped him against a wall of flames. Her sword was at his throat. "This is your end," she said calmly. Jackson smirked. Not yet. He pressed a button on his glove. A platform under her feet shifted and shot upward. She flew into the air, off balance. Jackson jumped, caught her leg, and flipped them both onto another surface. They landed hard, rolled apart. Both stood panting. The crowd roared with excitement. Thelyria narrowed her eyes. "You fight well." "You too," Jackson replied, sweat dripping from his brow. "But why do you fight?" she asked. "For glory, for power, for love." Jackson looked at her seriously. "For respect." She blinked. "Explain." "Come. From a planet everyone mocks. I joined this tournament to show that humans are not weak. We may not have laser eyes or steel skin, but we have spirit. We have will." He pointed at her. "And we don't give up." Thelyria stepped forward, her sword glowing. Jackson charged, boosting forward with a jetpack on his back. They clashed in the air. Sparks flew. Their weapons collided again, and then it happened. Thelyria's sword knocked Jackson's baton away. He fell back. Landing hard, the sword now pointed at his chest. The crowd waited. This was it. But Thelyria didn't strike. She looked down at him. Her chest rose and fell. Her eyes softened. "You had the chance to kill me earlier," she said, "but you didn't." Jackson didn't move. Because honor is greater than victory. She slowly lowered her sword. Jackson sat up. I yield, she said clearly. The stadium went quiet for 2 seconds, then exploded into thunder, Princess. Thelyria stepped back and raised Jackson's hand high. He has won, she said. Not just the fight, but the galaxy's respect. The roar of cheers filled the stars. Later, in the royal chamber, the two stood side by side. You didn't need to yield, Jackson said. Yes, I did, she answered. Because I was not testing your strength. I was testing your heart. Jackson smiled. And did I pass? Thelyria looked at him with a small smirk. More than that, you surprised me. A message from the Galactic Council arrived that night. Earth is hereby invited to the Galactic Alliance. You're no longer a fringe world. You are one of us. And so humanity took its first step into the greater universe because one man believed he could win. Because one princess believed he was more than he appeared. Jackson Reed sat on the edge of the royal balcony, staring at the stars. The final match was over. The whole galaxy now knew his name. From Earth to the moons of Zeltrax, beings talked about the human who defeated the most feared warriors and stood tall against a royal princess. He should have felt proud, but his heart was heavy. Not because he had lost, but because he had won. Princess Thelyria had yielded in the arena. Or maybe she had honored his strength in a different way. But ever since the battle, they hadn't spoken privately. Jackson wasn't sure if she respected him or pitied him. He clenched his fists and looked at the arena below. It was empty now, silent and dark. But earlier, it had roared with voices from across the galaxy. He could still hear the echo. Jackson, Jackson, Earthling champion. But cheers weren't enough. Not anymore. Footsteps approached behind him. He turned. It was her. Princess Thelyria stood in her royal robe. Without armor, without weapons. Her silver hair flowed over her shoulders, and her violet eyes glowed in the moonlight. Why are you here alone? She asked softly. Jax stood up, waiting for answers. She raised an eyebrow. What kind of answers? Did I really win? He asked. Or did you let me win? Thelyria walked closer, her expression unreadable. You want truth, human? I always have. She stopped just a few steps from him. Then listened carefully. She spoke slowly, clearly. When I said if you win this battle, you win me. I was not offering myself like an object. It was a challenge, a royal vow. I wanted to see if you were just another fighter or something more, and Jackson asked. You are something more. Jackson's heart skipped. Said, why did you yield? Thelyria looked away as if searching the stars for answers. Because I knew you were already winning, not the fight. But something inside me. The silence between them was thick, but not cold. It was full of meaning. I didn't come here to take anyone's hand, Jackson said. I came to prove humans are not weak, that we deserve respect. And you earned it, Thelyria said firmly. She turned to him again. You have earned my respect, and perhaps something more. Something's face turned warm. For the first time since entering the arena, he felt nervous. What now? He asked. Thelyria smiled. Now comes the real duel. The next day, new announcement shook the galaxy. The princess herself had requested one final match. Not in the tournament, not in the arena, but in the royal hall of trials, a sacred chamber where only 2 warriors enter, and only one walks. Out with honor. This match wouldn't be about power. It would be about truth, about heart, inside the hall of trials. There were no crowds, no cameras, no weapons, only 2 people. Jackson wore simple training clothes. No armor, no gadgets. Thelyria wore the same. They stood on opposite sides of the circle. A robotic voice echoed from above. Begin. But neither moved. Jackson looked at her. You sure you want to do this? Thelyria nodded. I must, she raised her fists. Jackson sighed and raised his hands too. They moved slowly at first, like dancers. Their steps were silent. Their eyes locked. Then Thaleria attacked. Quick jab, side strike, spinning kick. Jackson blocked, ducked, countered with a leg sweep. She stumbled but regained her balance fast. No weapons, just speed, strength, and trust. Thaleria moved with grace. She had trained since she was a child. Jackson was more wild, more instinctive. The match lasted minutes that felt like hours. Each blow was not meant to hurt. But to understand, each strike asked a question. Each block gave an answer. Finally, Jackson pinned her to the wall, breathing hard. She didn't fight back. Instead, she whispered, "You're not fighting me anymore, are you?" He slowly stepped back. "No, I'm fighting myself." She looked into his eyes. "And what do you see?" Jackson's voice was low. "Someone who doesn't want to be a hero, just someone who belongs." They stood in silence again. Then Thaleria took his hand and placed it over her heart. "You already belong." The Hall of Trials door opened. The council members stood outside, waiting. Jackson and Thaleria stepped out. Hand in hand, the galaxy saw them. Together, not enemies, not rivals, but equals. The council's voice echoed. "Let it be known, Earth and Varelia are now united in honor. Princess Thaleria's vow is complete. Jackson Reed has passed all trials. He is not just a fighter, he is a bridge between worlds." That night, under the twin moons of Varelia, a grand celebration was held. Lights danced across the sky. Beings from 100 planets sang and cheered, and in the center of it all, Jackson stood beside Thaleria, not as a conqueror, not as a prize, but as someone who had earned her trust and maybe her heart. In a quiet moment away from the celebration, Thaleria turned to him. "I still don't understand humans," she said. Jackson smiled. "We're messy. We cry. We joke. We fail a lot. And yet," she said, "you never stop getting back up." "That's what makes us human," he replied. She touched his hand. "Then I'm glad I made that vow." Jackson laughed. "So am I." The twin suns of Varelia slowly rose above the shining towers of the capital. Flags of many worlds flew side by side across the sky. Streets were decorated with glowing banners and floating orbs of light. Alien families, traders, and soldiers gathered together. This day was different. This day was history. A human had done the impossible, and now the galaxy was watching Earth with new eyes. Inside the royal palace, Jackson Reed stood in front of a large mirror. He was dressed in formal Varelian attire-light armor with blue and silver colors, stitched with Earth's symbol, a small globe surrounded by stars. He adjusted the collar, feeling awkward. "I still look like I'm going to battle," he muttered. From behind, Princess Thaleria entered the room, wearing her ceremonial robe. It shimmered like moonlight. Her silver hair was braided with thin strands of crystal. "You look fine," she said, smiling. "I feel like a statue," Jackson replied. "You are a symbol now, not just a warrior." He turned to her. "And you? How do you feel?" She paused. "Nervous." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "You, the princess who fought in 10 wars? Thaleria chuckled softly. "This is not war. This is diplomacy. It's harder." They stood silently for a moment, eyes meeting, both remembering everything that had happened. The battles, the vow, the final duel, and now, peace. The ceremony began at the top of the sky platform, a giant floating stage above the capital city. Leaders from over 50 alien civilizations stood in a circle. Cameras floated above them, broadcasting the event to billions across the stars. A deep voice echoed through the air. "We gather here today to witness the beginning of a new era, a time when the weak rise, when the unknown become allies, and when one man's courage lights the way for his people." Jackson stepped forward. Thaleria joined him. Together, they faced the Galactic Council. An elder Varelian spoke loudly. Jackson Reed of Earth, do you accept the honor of becoming Earth's first galactic ambassador? I do, Jackson said clearly. Do. You swear to speak for your world with truth, wisdom, and peace? I do. And do you accept the alliance between Earth and Varelia, bound by trust and tested in battle? Jackson looked at Thaleria. I do. The elder turned to Thaleria. Princess Thaleria, do you confirm this bond? I do, she answered. The crowd cheered. Fireworks exploded across the sky in shapes of stars, Earth's globe and Varelia's crest. After the ceremony, there was a great feast in the palace. Tables stretched as far as the eye could see. Alien dishes, Earth food, and drinks from every corner of the galaxy were shared. Jackson sat beside Thaleria at the high table. His stomach was full, but his thoughts were racing. I never imagined. This, he said, me, an ambassador. You earned it, Thaleria replied. You changed how my people see humans. He looked around at the smiling faces. And maybe how I see myself. Suddenly, a group of children ran up to Jackson. Some were human. Others had scales, feathers, or glowing eyes. Are you really the champion? One boy asked. Jackson knelt down and smiled. I used to be. Now I just help people talk. Can you teach us how to fight? Girl with antennae asked. He laughed. Fighting is the last option. First you listen, then you think, then you talk. Doesn't work? Another child asked. Thaleria walked over and placed her hand on Jackson's shoulder. Then, she said gently, you fight with honor, like he did. As the sun set, music filled the air. Lights danced in the sky. Alien instruments played side by side with Earth drums and flutes. Jackson and Thaleria stood at the balcony, watching the stars. This alliance, he said quietly, will it last? Thaleria nodded. As long as people like you keep reminding us what's possible. Looked at her. What about us? She smiled. We already faced fire and steel. I think we'll be fine. That night, Jackson sent a message to Earth. It was simple, but powerful. We are no longer alone. Earth is not just a small planet. We are part of something bigger, and we belong. Be proud, be kind, be strong. In the following months, changes began across the galaxy. Earth was welcomed into the Galactic Council. New trade routes opened. Earth technology improved. Human students were invited to alien academies. Alien visitors walked Earth's cities for the first time. And always. In the center of every peace meeting was the name Jackson Reed. But he never acted like a hero. He trained young warriors, wrote books about unity, and spent his days traveling. Between Earth and Varelia, he always said the same thing. I didn't save the galaxy. I just showed up when it needed someone brave enough to try. One day, years later, a reporter asked Jackson a final question during a peace event. Do you ever regret joining that tournament? Jackson looked at Thaleria, who stood proudly beside him. He smiled, not for a second.